Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Lighting That Shapes Design. I'm Sohana Arni, founder of Line Plus Form Plus Light, and I have the privilege of serving as the lighting consultant for Illuminate at NeoCon. NeoCon defines design every year. This year, NeoCon gets a little bit brighter as it embraces lighting as a design element. Lighting is always part of a project. It's drawn, it's specified, coordinated, budgeted, but too often it is treated as a requirement before it is treated as a point of view. So therein is the opportunity to bring lighting into the conversation early enough that it does not simply reveal the design, it helps give the design meaning. Lighting is the medium through which design is revealed. It articulates architecture. It activates materials. It enhances color. It gives textured dimension. It provides visual depth. It sets the emotion of a space. It influences comfort, productivity, well-being, and how people integrate. Without light, the design environment is not fully understood. And without thoughtful lighting, even the most beautiful space can fall short of its intent. This is why this conversation matters. Lighting is not just a technical layer. It's not just a foot candle calculation, a fixture schedule, or a ceiling plan waiting to be engineered into oblivion. Lighting shapes how people feel, focus, work, gather, and connect in space. And when it is brought into the deeper design conversation too late, everyone feels it. Lighting is not complex because it is secondary. Lighting is complex because it sits at the intersection of everything. So before we begin, I want to briefly introduce the incredible voices joining this conversation. Our moderator, Al Uszynski, is the publisher and editor of Inside Lighting, North America's most visited media site for lighting industry news and information. Representing the lighting experts, Avi Moore, founding principal of Moore Lights, a nationally recognized lighting design firm and co-host of Lighting Matters podcast. Joining him is Lisa Reed, an award-winning lighting designer, co-host of Lighting Matters podcast, and an advocate for women in the industry. Representing the sales channel is Caitlin Mulligan, a Southern California-based lighting manufacturer representative with more than a decade of experience leading complex projects with a background in architecture. Representing the A&D community is Jenny West, a licensed interior designer, workplace strategist, large-scale artist, and founder of West Consulting, who has 2 decades of experience with a rare fluency across design, business, and art. And lastly, Rebecca Keener is a commercial interior designer with Santec, bringing over 26 years of experience across workplace, hospitality, healthcare, and retail with a focus on sustainable modern interiors. Now, please join me in welcoming our moderator, Al Uszynski, and this incredible panel for Lighting That Shapes Design.
Thank you, Sohana, and thank you, everyone. You know a little bit about us now, but let's get to know a little bit about you folks and who is in the audience today that's going to witness and involve us all in this conversation. First of all, how many people here are interior design professionals, interior designers? Okay, that looks like close to half, if not over half. Next, how many architects are in the room? Architects. Great. Who are our building owners or facilities people? Building owners, facilities people. Manufacturers. Manufacturers in the space. How about manufacturers representatives? Okay, great. So we have a nice cross-section of individuals, and we're very excited to have all of you here today in this outstanding panel. And I want you to think for a moment. Think about an outstanding space. It might be a workplace, a university, a restaurant, a hotel, a healthcare facility. And think about what stands out. What do you notice first in that outstanding space? For some of you, it might be the architecture, or the furniture, or the finishes. For some, it might be the artwork. But if you think about it, the reality is none of that can be fully appreciated without light. And that brings us to today's conversation, where we're going to explore the intersection of how design meets these projects from the early stages of concept to when the final item is punched off the punch list, and then the occupant and the building owner live with those designs for the next 5, 10, 15 plus years. So let's dig in with our panel and with the first question. And that goes to Avi, one of our lighting designers on the panel. Avi, when you consider the type of projects that are involved with designers, they span all sorts of types, especially for commercial interiors. But why is a lighting designer considered optional on many commercial projects, and when is their involvement truly essential?
Well, they are truly essential always, because somebody has to manage the light. Who's managing the light on that project? Is it going to be the architect, the engineer, the rep agency, the owner, the manufacturer? So somebody has to manage it. And there was a talk earlier today talking about how an architect can manage the light. Absolutely, there are architects in the room that manage it all the time. But think about your personal life and managing your family and then managing business, right? Something's gonna fall between the cracks every once in a while. That's what's gonna happen with lighting when somebody other than a lighting designer is managing the lighting. And then the other thing is, why is it so accessible? Well, you can run out to, I'm an Orange fan store, so I'm a Home Depot guy. I mean, you could go to Home Depot and buy a light, right? And if there's a junction box, you can install it. So it's very accessible. But is that lighting what you really want in the space that we're all designing?
Caitlin.
When is lighting design considered optional? I think it's a really tough question. As a lighting manufacturer's rep, I'm often assisting both lighting designers and interior and architecture teams. So I would say that we always, especially on the complex projects, want the light. The lighting designer is always preferred, but we do a lot of corridors and restrooms and TIs that the interior design teams, I think, are very well versed in the requirements of lighting and are able to deliver a successful project. But I agree, when it starts to get complex, it's really nice to have that focused attention.
I'll tack on to that. I think that as a designer coming out of school, there really wasn't a curriculum that taught us about what lighting design is when we were getting our interior architecture degree. And so it's very much an on-the-job training where you have some projects that something fell through the cracks, like you said, and suddenly you go, oh, that deep expertise is something that we were missing. I would also argue that when we're out there winning business with clients, there's a little fear factor that maybe our fees are going to appear a little bit bigger than our competition if we add the needed expertise that that project calls for. So sometimes fear is in the way. I think ego can be in the way because there might be a situation where admitting you need better expertise than yourself makes you appear less capable than maybe someone else. So there are a number of ways that lighting design becomes optional. And I would close with, awareness is huge. Lighting design as a discipline is, I would say, an inconsistent expertise on projects, and only certain scales or complexity gets it. So, over time it will become more acceptable that they're on every project all the time, much like we saw this advent of project management as a discipline being a seldom expertise, and nowadays they're pretty common.
Thank you, Lisa.
I think that distinction is really good of lighting design as a discipline. Distinguish between that and what Avi said. Lighting design happens on every project. It just may or may not be completed by a professional lighting designer. And so it's essential. There's lighting on all of the projects. Someone designed it. But then, so it is essential. But to the point of your question, understanding, should a lighting design professional be on every project? Of course, the two lighting designers are going to say, absolutely, we should be on every project. And yet I understand that fear of losing the job altogether because you have those extra fees. And it's a tricky line to walk, but There's got to be a way to maybe get at least some professional advice or consultation so that your project is elevated.
Rebecca, the architect on the panel, what do you say?
Interior designer.
Oh, pardon me. Well, I was thinking Stantec was the architecture.
But with
Yes.
so we do work for
Yes.
large commercial projects, and we do have a lighting designer typically on every project. And but it hasn't always been that way. I think we're moving further toward doing that. And what we find is it's about the right scope for everybody. So the triad is going to be your interior designer, your electrical consultant, and your lighting designer. And they're going to have some overlap. And with the lighting designer is going to be a bridge of the technical knowledge to make the design that the interior designer conceives of to be executed in a technically excellent way, and then help to communicate that with electrical so that there is that bridge. Without the lighting designer, you have the interior designer and the electrical kind of overlapping, but you may be losing some of that technical expertise a lighting designer brings. You want to make sure that you have the right lumen output for the height of the ceiling. You want to make sure that your all of your different, like your electrical components are all scheduled and all of the specs are correct, but they also need to have the correct finishes that are going to be united on the project. So the interior designer can take over a lot of that, but what I find is interior designer and electrical both have an area that's kind of a cloud of slight inefficiency. Yes, we can do that, but it's not where we're best suited necessarily to stretch to try to do all of those technical bits. It's better if we're kind of like conceiving of and controlling the design concept, and lighting design is a partner and a technical support to lighting to interiors.
Well stated. Javi, one last
I
moment.
just want to add, too, that we're talking a lot about design and the early execution, but there's the second piece of this, too, and there's another lighting designer who says this, so I'm using her phrase. But sometimes you need the lighting police. See, there we go. Everybody kind of agrees, right? And lighting designers are independent from the sales channel. And sometimes you really want that thing. And you really want it for the price you know it is. And guess what? There's nobody other than a lighting designer who can be the lighting police and say, that's what it is, that's how much it is, move on. You need that. And so when it comes to fee, I wanted to bring that up because when it comes to fee, there's this huge value that I think gets forgotten. And I forget who said it, but there is difference between lighting designer to lighting designer. But there's a huge difference when you can say, yeah, but we're also going to be the lighting police. And what we designed is what's actually going to come on the project for the fee you agreed to, for the equipment costs you agreed to.
We saw earlier that there was a large number of interior designers in the audience. Let's see again. If you're an interior designer, please raise your hand. Now keep your hand up and put your hand down, depending on your answer here. How many of those interior designers right now have worked on a project in the last year with an architectural lighting designer on it? Okay, so we had about half to start with, and then now probably, less than 20% remain. Thank you for your feedback. So case in point that not every project has one, maybe not every project absolutely needs one, but certainly there's value to be had there, and those points are well taken, so thank you for that. As we attend various conferences like this and other design-forward conferences, for years, maybe even decades, we've seen messages on sustainability. We've seen messages on health and wellness, and now in the last couple of years especially, we've seen more messages on AI. But getting to the well-being side of things and the health and wellness side of things, let's transition that, and we'll ask the other lighting design professional on the panel, Lisa, to start with us here. As designers place greater emphasis on occupant well-being, what role is lighting playing in the most successful environments you're seeing today?
I think about, just right now, pause and think about the experiences that evoke a positive somatic response in your life. I was talking with someone recently about the sound of a train whistle brought back memories of her childhood because she lived near a train track. Maybe it's a bonfire, or that effect. For me, it's that effect that light has when it's reflected off of water and it kind of shimmers on the ceiling, or on the umbrellas at the pool. That is what lighting design does. It's about an experience, and it's about creating that emotion. And so when we start talking about well-being, we want to create spaces that give you that really positive, somatic, physical response when you go into it. And there are a lot of things that we do to make sure that happens, and there's a lot of technical that has to happen to make sure that happens, but in the end, that's what I want, is that I want people to physically relax when they're in a space that we designed.
Thank you. Rebecca?
I think that in terms of wellness, first of all, totally agree with that kind of sensory experience. Some of my favorite places are like the redwoods at the coast with the light filtering down and when it hits the ferns. And I think that lighting is just like deeply visceral. I think I will leave a restaurant if the lighting is bad. I will walk in and I will go, no, I can't be in here. I can't eat food in here. And I think so. There may be people, if we're designing a workplace office, there may be people that they have to be there because they're hired to be there in that space. But will they take another job opportunity that's in a more pleasantly lit area later? Will they call out for work sick more often? There's plenty of data that supports that, wellness, including the environmental design, access to natural light, but also the lighting design has to support the access to the natural light. Otherwise, it is unbalanced and you've just got glare happening. And in fact, the interiors has to support the lighting that helps to make that all wellness kind of cohesive. It's a lot about personal control. It's a lot about making sure that we have the lighting temperatures consistent. And then it's about facilities not replacing, sorry, that's accusatory. It's about making sure we communicate with facilities to ensure that when they're maintaining the space, that they are using the same bulb that was originally spec'd for the fixture, so we don't get pinks and greens and different color temperatures happening later on. So it's kind of it's a full life cycle from design to maintaining the building.
Great feedback. Avi, what are your thoughts on wellness and lighting?
So at More Lights, we concentrate a lot about our connection to the natural environment. So when we're inside, we don't want to be in a warm space if it's a beautiful sunny day outside, right? It almost feels muddy, right? Have you been in one, like some of the old hospitality spaces that are really, really comfortable at night, but there's all this daylight coming in, so then it feels muddy and weird, right? Whereas like if it's really blue, somebody designed it for daylight, but then at nighttime you walk into that hotel, and I think hotels are just such a great example, and it's lit for daylight, and you walk in and you're like, wow. Or I was recently in an airport, to not name names, and got stuck in this airport, and I always carry around a light meter, and it was ridiculously bright at night. And I mean, the last thing you want is to be in a day-lit, bright airport as you're trying to get on an airplane, because all you want to do is go to bed, right? Or at least like close your eyes for an hour. It's just short distance. Yeah, trying not to name airports. So it's that connection, and you know what? That connection to nature, it doesn't cost anything now with LEDs and with controls. It's really straightforward. So we've been talking a lot about that and how we can apply that and actually I can say that we're working on an airport that the whole airport's gonna be lit that way. And my understanding is one of the first, but it's not expensive. We're doing it in an airport, right?
Caitlin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that we sort of addressed is the daylight, and maybe you're addressing tunable lighting a little bit too. But in a workplace or any space, especially where people are working for long periods of time, having diversity in light levels so that individual people can go to an area that they are more individually suited for, whether that's a phone room that's dimmer, that has only perimeter accent lighting, that's comfortable for them, or someone works really well in an open office that's daylit and super well lit. I think overall just offering that and encouraging You know, we see lighting designers talking about this all the time, but offering the diversity in lighting options throughout an office, a cafe or an open workspace or a phone room should all be lit differently. They shouldn't be the same foot candle level throughout an entire floor plate.
Before we get Jenny's feedback, just to follow up to you, Caitlin, of all the panelists, you as a manufacturer's rep, you probably touch or are exposed to dozens of projects every month. And when you think about the types of inquiries that come to you, how many of them are proactively asking you for suggestions or recommendations in the area of health and wellness and lighting?
I think that we touch many, many, many smaller projects. So we do thousands of projects a year, and a lot of the ones that I'm more involved in are so small. 1,100 square foot tenant build out, really quick. I've been doing lighting for 15 years with a background in architecture, so I don't have the time or expertise to be a lighting designer, but I know enough to say, you should really do a perimeter in at least one of these rooms. You may want to add a cove or do bi-directional switching. And a lot of that too comes from, I work with everybody in the sales channel, including developers and project managers and end users, and there is a value in having good lighting, even if it's a little tiny spec suite. You want to be able to rent it. It wants to be leasable. And that comes back to a lot of lighting decisions. So I do think at least advising in a proactive way is a part of my responsibility, even if it's just troffers and a few perimeters.
Great. Jenny, what are your thoughts on health and wellness?
So health and wellness is rooted in choice and knowing that each of us experience every space differently. So echoing what you said, having a variety of lighting really helps suit every person's need. This question hits home because I'm a person that is triggered by bad lighting and I get migraines. I don't know, show of hands if any of you react. There's a lot of hands in the air here. And in my work as a workplace strategist, I've been consulting on more inclusive spaces for neurodivergent individuals and students particularly. So tunable colored lighting can be very comforting when you have sensory overwhelm. It can create more of an air of focus or energy and divergent thinking and creativity. So having access to different zones that support your task and mood, as well as using it to boost certain activities is incredibly important.
Excellent feedback on everyone. Let's hear one last comment from Lisa.
Sure, I just wanted, we talked about a lot of specifics, and two important ones that I don't want to miss are glare. So glare from light fixtures, you know, they need to be comfortable, visually comfortable, and then also flicker, and there's kind of that imperceptible flicker that not everybody sees, but when you said that about migraines, that's, you know, definitely a migraine trigger for some folks too. And we don't have really great metrics for even measuring flicker, so you have to find a friend like me who sees it and use them as your flicker meter.
As lighting people, we often see people measuring flicker by doing something like this, waving a card or a ruler in front of something. But you know, great feedback from everyone. And one of the things that we as a panel struggled with is that there's so many great topics that this interdisciplinary panel could touch on relating to this theme of cross-disciplinary management and project design. But we thought we would inject a few quick questions, some short answer questions into the mix with a speed round. Is the panel ready for a speed round? Should we try this out?
Let's do it.
All right, great. We're going to start with Avi and come towards me. First question, Avi, what is the first thing you notice when you walk into a commercial space?
Glare.
Caitlin?
If it's overlit.
If it's overlit. Jenny?
I notice color.
Lisa?
Flicker.
If the color temperature matches on everywhere that it should.
Yes.
Color that's a blue and red. Okay, speed round. I can't elaborate. Okay, Caitlin, we'll start with you. What's harder to teach? Good lighting, good interior design, or good client management?
I think those are very different skill sets. I don't teach. I think that's a tough one. I have not ever taught those specifically, but I would think, I don't know. Those are different people, Al. Those are different people on the team.
All right, let's go to Jenny. Lighting, interior design, or client management? What's harder to learn?
Client management.
Lisa?
That's a pretty good one. I'm going to say interior design.
Rebecca?
I'm going to say interior design is more of a skill with an art base that you can learn, but I think that client management is nuanced and you're needing to learn how to teach, how to inform, how to sometimes introduce new technology, and then you also are needing to keep your own interior design wishes at bay. That's the most difficult, or the most challenging one. It takes but the best payoff, because if your client loves what you've informed them about, then you've done a great job.
And you don't get 6 credits of courses in interior design school on client management either. Avi, last person on that question. Lighting, interior design, or client management? What's harder?
Client management.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right, let's go to Jenny for this one. Which would you rather inherit? A budget cut of 25%, a schedule cut of 25%, or a ceiling height reduced by 25%?
Those are my options. Okay, I'll take budget.
Budget cut. Lisa, budget, schedule, or ceiling height?
I'll take the schedule cut. We can throw a lot of people at it.
Let's go, Rebecca.
I will take, this is brutal. I will not take the schedule cut, because I want to make sure all of the process, the mock-ups and everything's reviewed, everything's walked on site, requires the schedule. I'll take the budget cut, because I think that we can design around it. We can design around low ceilings.
Very good. Avi.
I'm going to go with budget cut too. That just requires a lot of good design. It's a fun challenge.
Caitlin?
Yeah, I would say budget cut. We can work with that.
The manufacturer's rep said budget cut. All right. Very good.
I think good design, good design always has constraints, or design always has constraints, and working around any of them is the key to good design.
Okay, Lisa, to you, which trend hits hardest over the next 5 years? AI, wellness, or sustainability? AI, wellness, or sustainability?
That's gonna have to be AI.
Rebecca?
Sustainability.
Avi? AI, wellness, or sustainability?
All the above.
Pick one, Avi, pick one.
I think, how about I hope sustainability?
Excellent.
I think AI.
Jenny?
I also think they're all interconnected, but I'll go with AI.
Great. Okay, Rebecca, tunable white light or is tunable white light must-have or nice to have?
It's a nice to have. You just need to specify the right temperature if you're stuck with one.
Avi?
Nice to have, maybe for the rest of this year, and next year must to have.
Caitlin?
Nice to have.
Jenny?
Must have.
Lisa?
Oh, I really, really want it.
Well, you're in charge on this panel.
Okay, 2 individual questions. First one to Rebecca. How many restaurants have you walked out of for bad lighting?
Oh, probably 10, 12, 20.
Wow, that's
I just don't get even that close.
you have your principles.
Yeah.
And last question to Avi. Can you suggest any airports that might be overlit?
No.
Okay, great.
Every single one of them. You don't need light in the walkway.
Very good, very good. Okay.
Think about it.
Let's transition to more of our longer form answers, and we'll start this one with Rebecca. And we talked earlier about how it would be great if every project had a lighting designer, but certainly there are projects that do not utilize one. So Rebecca, when budgets are tight and there's no dedicated lighting designer on the team, what practical steps can interior designers take to make better lighting decisions?
If there is not a lighting designer, then it is good to well, first of all, think about the finishes that you've specified. Think about your highest priority focal finishes. Make sure that they are being lit appropriately. Make sure that any light source is going to be covered, indirect, or preventing glare, or that somebody who might be experiencing that light is not going to be looking directly into that light. Make sure all your color temperatures are the same. If you are not able to have a lighting designer check your photometrics, then you can check with your lighting manufacturers of your main general lighting to make sure your photometrics are appropriate. And I would say don't overlight, but focus on your key elements and make sure you design light for the full height of the room. Don't just stick everything in the ceiling. And think about accent lighting as well to complete the focal experience.
Lots of great tips there. Avi, I know you want to be involved in these, but when they're not utilizing an architectural lighting designer, what sage advice could you lend?
Well, whoever is the lighting specifier ultimately is the lighting designer in that scenario. So somebody picked it. If that's Caitlin, if that's an engineer, if it's the owner, so somebody is the responsible party. Unfortunately, we're in the United States and we live in a litigious society, so that will follow down. So you better have your calcs right, and you better have all these things right, and just find out who's going to be the responsible party. If it is too bright, if we do get migraines, if people aren't walking into the restaurant, somebody's going to be responsible. And then the other piece I would say is you got to be the lighting police. I mean, I think you all kind of joked at that initial phrase, but lighting's not expensive. There's just too many people involved that want to make it profitable. So please just police it yourself and be responsible with your specification. If you really like that thing, then stick with it. As soon as you let somebody else become the specifier, if you pick that, great, you picked it, you became the lighting designer, great. Then stay behind it, because it's just going to degrade lighting design altogether.
Thank you. Caitlin, what are your thoughts on this?
It's a pretty bold.
Sorry.
Mic
That's the
drop.
way I am.
Yeah, a mic drop moment. Just advice for interiors teams that don't have lighting designers. I think I would stick to, again, add a layer or two of lighting. Not just troffers. I've seen a lot of RCPs by junior designers that they're all troffers. Add a cove, add a toe kick, add a decorative pendant. I think that if an interiors team is doing a really simple interior project themselves, look at it not as an RCP, think about it as a space and add a few layers. That's usually my go-to recommendation. Not just an RCP, picture it a little bit more holistically.
Thank you. Jenny.
So my recommendation would be at kickoff, if you are hosting a visioning session, don't forget to ask your client to describe their experience in the visioning session about lighting. Hey, take me to a place that you really appreciate the quality of light and tell me why. Hey, I'll buy that coffee, take me there. And I think going to the real place, seeing good examples is a great way to be curious enough and see it in the real place if you can. I haven't been in many visioning sessions that talk about quality of light at the kickoff. So that's a huge differentiation for yourself to gain some insight from your client so you can meet and exceed those aspirations. But also add to your lexicon of curiosity. By going to that space, you can say, wow, why is this so calming, right? Why is this space so lovely? And maybe look at actually how those fixtures were detailed and specified. And by noticing that, you're building your own prowess when you don't have some of these experts on your team.
Thank you.
And then if you're doing what Jenny said, then my advice is don't relegate the lighting to someone else. Own it, keep control of it. You have a vision for that space, and the lighting is a part of that vision. And so if you're an interior designer, observe, be curious, and then take a hold of it. And I'm saying this from a place, I started my career as an electrical engineer with a huge interest in lighting, and I wanted to do lighting. But when I made the career move from electrical engineering to lighting design, I went from this, looking down at surfaces and thinking about how much light was on the table, to this and looking up at the room. And you as interior designers are used to thinking about places spatially, and that's important for lighting design.
I like that word, responsibility, that the two of you said, because while I'm not an acoustician, if I design a very echoey, loud conference room my client can't use, it is my responsibility to understand that. So be dangerous enough for a good outcome, just like you would for acoustics.
Or for the finishes you've selected, or if you're a particular paint manufacturer that you love, right? Have that connection to the light. I just don't see it as often.
So this topic about projects that don't have architectural lighting designer, Lisa, your firm RBLD has lots of great projects. How many in the last 2 or 3 years have come to you when a project started without an architectural designer and then they said, you know what, we think we need one? Is that common?
It happens. I don't know if it's common. I could probably just count on one hand how many times that's happened this year, but I will say our most loyal clients have come from that kind of, that kind of occurrence. They had a problem that we were able to solve for them, and now we're on every project, so.
Fair enough, fair enough. Great, let's bring the next question, a business-related question, to our business consultant on the panel, Jenny. How do you make the business case for thoughtful lighting to a skeptical client or project manager? What language actually works?
So I think instead of asking, what's this going to cost me for good lighting, I would flip that and reframe it. What is poor lighting already costing you? And when you go ask the mid-management level, they know, because there's absenteeism, there are people choosing to work from home, there are people suffering from migraines or different things, and so they know that there's a lot of preferences out there. So more than just an energy calculation, there's mood, there's task, there's activity-based planning that's been around for 2 decades that some people are just catching up to. So from a value proposition, there could be cost from the talent's poor experience with lighting that is already observed. The second thing I would say is by having a lighting designer, you are going to get a brilliant outcome, a better outcome than I could give by myself. You also will get the most probably cost-effective option rather than just the best looking I saw in a magazine. By using someone that knows these thousands of SKUs like the back of their hand, they're going to help you save time and let me do what I do best, and they do what they do best.
Thank you. Lisa.
I do find it difficult to put language around lighting. It's hard to convince people with words to do something that is so visual. But I heard a term recently that I think is important. We need to hack our clients, and that means figuring out what it is that makes them tick, if it's cost or if it's absenteeism. So find the thing that they really care about, and then you can talk about how lighting can help them. But my first goal would be, because it's such a visual experience, to go to that coffee shop, take them to a place and show them rather than try to tell them with words.
Thank you. Rebecca, the case for thoughtful lighting on a project.
So I think that part of it is understanding that if, as a commercial interior designer, I'm already specifying some very nice finishes on the, for surfaces, nice furniture, nice fixtures, nice wall, ceiling. And without the lighting designer, if you don't illuminate those finishes properly in a way, their full value of what the client is already paying for isn't being fully realized if the lighting isn't fully rendering it. And then secondly, the lighting designer, what they bring to the table is, as we've been talking about, making sure that the quantity of light fixtures is at the appropriate level, and that it isn't just pure spacing, which might overlight, and that might be more fixtures than you actually need. And the lighting designer is also going to be knowledgeable about lamping. If something needs to be re-lamped, they can spec different types of fixtures that might share the same lamping, so attic stock can be reduced. So they just have that type of additional kind of maximizing knowledge that makes sure that the client isn't losing value on what they're already paying for, and make sure that the client isn't over-purchasing.
And before we get the last 2 panelist ideas, just to follow up to you, Rebecca, as the commercial interiors person, you specify lots of different building products. Which categories that you touch are most susceptible, most prone to a high percentage chance of being value engineered?
Well, it's always interiors that gets value engineered for some reason, because it's what the client can see. It's harder to value engineer a mechanical system or the electrical system. So I'm sure anybody who is an interior designer has experienced that, because it's considered the most showy, flashy fixtures. of the project. But, and what was the question? Because now
Which category, which product category
product
from
category?
finishes to carpets to ceilings to lighting is most prone to possible value engineering?
I would have to say right now, some of the more sustainable options tend to be prone to being replaced with, like, they could be value engineered to a plastic-based material. If we wanted to go with something that's more, a cork-based, linoleum-based, real stone, real wood, and those types of things, I think there's less of a willingness to take those on along with the maintenance, unless the client is already pre-motivated. There's a lot of education we do there, but I think that those finishes tend to be reduced, as well as focal lighting, focal fixtures in lighting that, again, it draws the eye, and so anything that draws the eye is kind of a first on the list for budget cuts.
Okay, that partially validates us lighting people. We live in the same echo chamber, and we always believe that we are the victims of early VE. Avi, what are your thoughts on the business case for thoughtful lighting on a project?
So I always like to turn to stories, and there's two stories I like to share when somebody asks, well, what's the value in lighting design? And the first one is a hospital we did on the North Shore here in Chicago. The engineer had laid out all of the patient rooms with 4 fluorescent, yes, a little bit older, 2x4 fixtures. And we did this wasn't in our scope. I just looked at it and I was like, why are there 4? I asked, what are you doing in this room? And they said, well, this is just where a patient comes, sits for a minute before they do something else in the hospital. Okay, great. Well, do you need 400-foot candles? No, we don't. Okay. By the way, there's also this amazing technology, maybe you've heard about it, LEDs. Would you be interested in that? Absolutely. So not part of our scope. We cut half the fixtures out of the building, reduced all the mercury, right? Fluorescent is mercury, substantially more than LED. And we cut massive amounts of money out of this job. There's the value of a lighting designer. Simple. And all I did was ask one simple question. On another project, it's the same kind of thing. Just looking at one question, it was in my head and now I just lost it. But we talk a lot about lighting design is not a luxury. It's required. And we ask the question, what do you need? And it comes back very much what Lisa was saying, like, what do you need? What's your problem? Tell me about your bathroom at home. Can you shave? Can you put your makeup on? Did you hire a lighting designer for that? And then that story then leads to, real quick, I'll say that the other story came to mind. Restaurant owner, in the process of doing the restaurant, said, where's my wall of dimmers? And I handed him an iPad. His spec for every restaurant going forward requires an iPad to control the lights because he could walk around and understand how it looked. And he could adjust the audio at the same time as adjusting the lighting. And it didn't cost him anything extra, right? But it gave him exactly what he wanted, right? That when we invoke the emotion and the story, then they get it. But it's an uphill battle. And unfortunately, sorry, I said it would be short, but Lisa and I are selling our businesses. What we don't have to help any of you is a lighting design standard, right? This is what lighting designers do. Lisa and I do very similar things, but we have our uniques. We're selling lighting design and ourselves, and it's very difficult. Unlike what you all do as interior designers and architects, you have, we know what that is, right? They're unique. There are your uniques. But I think we need your help, really, to better understand how do we sell the idea of lighting design separate from our firms. It's really a big challenge.
Quick yes or no follow-up, Avi, has, at the restaurant anecdote that you brought up, did the wine sommelier ever accidentally hand the lighting controls iPad instead of the wine iPad to a customer?
No.
Okay.
It's a very different color, and it locks out. So
Fair enough. Let's get Caitlin's aspects, or Caitlin's thoughts on this question about the business case for thoughtful lighting on a project.
Yeah, I think, again, I come from a very strong business perspective in lighting. But the business case for lighting, I think, is very clear because a lot of it comes down to the budgets of the project, what the rent is for multifamily, what the leases are for the units, for the healthcare and hospitals, very interested in the metrics of client satisfaction. And so many of those metrics come back to having good lighting. You're gonna have a better patient experience, like Avi mentioned, with good lighting. So you're gonna have those better patient surveys. You're gonna be able to lease multifamily for a higher cost if your amenity spaces in your corridors are a little bit nicer and thoughtful. And for office spaces, you're gonna be able to get a higher cost per square foot lease price if there's a little bit more intention with the lighting. So I think that as designers, having clients understand that, or for end users here, I think it's a really compelling discussion about the final product.
Excellent,
Clients-
excellent. Yes,
clients
Jenny.
are not buying lumens, they're buying the outcomes, right? So less about the technical and more about their outcomes is one way to relate and sell that value.
100%.
Well stated, well stated. We have time for one last speed round. We'll do the speed round here. And so again, short answers, a few words tops, and we'll start this one with Avi. Avi, the single interior element that most impacts employee happiness is?
Glare. Flicker, sorry, flicker.
Flicker.
Sorry, flicker's way worse.
Daylight, I think daylight's good.
Excellent. Jenny.
Choice.
Nice. Lisa.
That was what I was going to say, control.
Rebecca.
I'm going to say daylight also.
Okay, Caitlin, the bigger design sin, glare everywhere, overlighting or underlighting?
That's tough. Probably glare everywhere.
Bigger sin, glare, overlighting or underlighting?
Overlighting.
Lisa,
The most common one is overlighting.
the biggest sin.
Well, the biggest, that biggest most common or the biggest the worst?
The worst. Jeez. Rebecca,
I think glare's worse. Your eyes can eventually kind of adapt to high or low, but glare you can never adapt to.
Yep.
Overlighting because you spent too much money
there you go.
and energy.
And you gave me a headache.
And you gave a head.
Then you
And then it's most likely glary. So,
then you get the controls iPad to turn down the
right,
light.
and then you get the controls. Right.
Jenny, daylight or electric light? Which one is more often underutilized? Daylight or electric light?
I think daylight is underutilized.
Lisa?
Daylight, definitely.
Rebecca?
Daylight's underutilized. People build too many things in front of the windows.
Avi?
Daylight.
Caitlin?
Yeah, daylight.
Okay, the next one, 3 choices. What makes a great project most successful? A great team, a great client, or a great budget? Jenny?
A great client.
Team, budget, or client? Lisa?
I'm going to say a great team.
Rebecca?
A great client.
Avi?
Great team.
Caitlin?
I would say a great team.
No one said great budget. Excellent. Next one, let's start this one with Rebecca. Name one building element that unexpectedly gets in the way of good lighting.
Ooh. The ceiling.
Avi?
I stole mine. The ceiling. Sprinkler heads. God, those sprinkler
Those darn sprinkler heads. Caitlin?
HVAC, every time.
Very good. Jenny?
I thought HVAC, yeah.
I thought sprinklers. That's the one that's hardest for us to move afterward.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Okay, and that ends our second speed round. So now, are we in the position
bring
to
help?
throw the QR code up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we'll treat this next one as a very short answer, and we're going to go to each 5 of you, but we'll try to target 15 seconds or less. 15 seconds or less on one principle. And while we're doing this, our audience members can contribute to a Q&A by scanning the QR code and sending our panelists your question. If you want to ask a specific panelists, please do cite which one. We have a mix of people with left to right, Avi, Caitlin, Jenny, Lisa, and Rebecca. So the question for 15 to 20-second answers, each one. One principle. If you could leave every interior designer in this room with one lighting principle to apply on their very next project, what would it be? Avi.
Okay, I'm just going to get nerdy and technical. Lighting controls is awesome.
Yes.
Use Dolly. Dolly's your friend. Come find me later.
Caitlin, one lighting principle to apply on their very next project.
Yeah, I'm going to have to keep preaching the layers of lighting, more than just downlights or troughers.
Jenny.
curiosity and don't stop learning techniques. Be curious, drop your ego enough to ask, how do I do this? It's out of my box, so keep learning.
Love it. Lisa.
Well, we all talk a lot about color temperature, but really the color rendering index and the R9 values, if you can get those high, people don't know why they like the space more, but they like it more.
Rebecca?
Dimming, using dimming as much as possible and being aware of your dimming groups and how they make the space work together.
Great answers. Thank you for the questions. We'll pose our first question to Lisa. Lisa, what lighting organizations can help what lighting organizations can help people learn more about the topic?
Well, one of our major organizations is the IES, the Illuminating Engineering Society, and there's a lot of education that the IES does, both in local sections and nationally and through webinars. So the IES is a big one, and you'll want to look them up if you don't know them. Maybe everybody in here knows the IES, I don't know. But they do set our standards for, and it's, I say they, but it's we, members of the IES, set standards for lighting. So that's a great place to go. If you really wanted to take a course, a 2 or 3 week course, the Rocky Mountain Lighting Institute in Boulder is a good place to go. And they have both a technical and an artistic one. So if you're stronger on one side or the other, you can go take the other class. So there's a couple.
Very good. Avi, quick.
I was just going to add, Illuminate at NeoCon. There's a show here, lots of sessions. This is a great educational opportunity. I know you got to get in an elevator, 7th floor, but there's a ton of educational vignettes that we've worked really hard on. And I hope you'll come and see them and then tell us what's missing, because we can add it. And then the other thing I was going to say is check with your local IES sections. I was former president of the Chicago section. We do 2 classes every year on lighting, just teaching you about the technology. So, and they're like $150 or $200. I don't know, somebody in the back could probably tell me I'm wrong.
Probably more than that.
All right. It's more, and it's in the fall. It's been a while. But check that out. And the IES is, yeah.
And I know another one.
Yeah.
The Lighting Matters podcast.
Lighting Matters podcast. Yeah, these 2 people get up on.
Yeah, Avi and Lisa are co-hosts of the Lighting Matters podcast. Actually, many discussions like this, but also related to other lighting-related topics. It goes deep on these discussions. It's something to add to your download list. They just have to. They don't have to listen. They just need to download it. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm teasing.
Yeah, or watch it, or you know.
Fair enough. Great. Among the panelists, how many panelists are using AI language models more than 20 times a day? Okay, we'll go to Caitlin on this. How good is AI at understanding lighting design to teach you if you're not going to one of those classes? Is it competent in lighting design principles?
No, probably not.
Great, all right. So that reinforces the need for the professionals in this room. Let's go to the next question from the group, and we'll start this one with Rebecca. Rebecca, what space is the most difficult to illuminate, in your opinion?
I would say any space that has to go from day to night. And kind of as Avi mentioned, hotels are a good example. You almost need to design the space twice because you need to accommodate all of those different scenes, and then also the different energy that takes place day to night. It's a completely different, not just a look and not just brightness difference, but a mood difference as well.
Jenny, do you have an opinion on this?
Okay, I would say multimedia rooms, probably. Maybe not. Okay, it's just complex and specific.
Caitlin.
Yeah, like video conferencing room, large-scale conferencing, multi-purpose rooms within an office.
Very good. Lisa, last person on that question regarding the difficult spaces to light.
Difficult. I think when you start thinking about a healthcare or healing environment and you're trying to support that, I think that's difficult and important.
And that comes from the woman whose firm lit the St. Louis Arch. So you're no stranger to highly technical projects. So another question for the panel. We'll start with Avi on this one. Why is daylight underused so much, and how can we make it more involved in design?
Oh, I'm going to make people mad. because renderings start with daylight. And that's the only light we need, according to these renderings that get produced by people. So we talk a lot about daylight being luminaire number 1, skylight being luminaire number 2, and how often we don't get to design it. Oh, it's already taken care of. We already designed the glass. Oh, we don't have the money for mechanical shades. Deal with it. Huh? Oh yeah, and it's an airport. How's that gonna work? It's a light fixture, everybody. It needs to be managed beyond what LEED says for heat gain through the glass. It needs to be designed, and it's not something that just gets left behind. And then we add, as some people will say, artificial. There's nothing artificial about electric light. Electric light supports daylight. And in a daylit space that's really deep, you need a lot of electric light to support thousands of foot candles coming in through glass. So I'll stop.
Fair enough, fair enough. We have one last question, which reminds me of a Keanu Reeves line in Parenthood, where he talks about you need a license to fish, you need a license to do all sorts of things. On projects, we need licensed mechanical, licensed electrical engineers. But how do we make lighting a must, architectural lighting designer a must, when budgeting like mechanical and electrical rather than optional? We'll start with you, since you touched so many disciplines, Rebecca.
Yes, and as I mentioned, most of our projects, we do have a lighting designer. It's all about the scope, and as I mentioned, the interior designer, architect, the lighting designer, and the electrical, it's a triad. There is a fixed amount of scope there, and it has to do with where that scope it's a flexible boundary, and it's who gets what part of the overlap, and it is already, as has been mentioned, lighting is being designed, so without the lighting designer, that same shape is just the interiors and the electrical. And so the cost is the same, it's just you divide the scope a little bit differently.
Fair enough, and we'll hear from Jenny on that too.
So as someone that has led project management offices nationwide, it's about adding accountability to every trade on the project. I think project managers can do a lot of advocacy for this, and they already do. So ask your project managers locally to include lighting design in the workflows. And then the suggestion for design firms would be to be a leader, put it in your fees, put it in. It will help you stand out and have better design outcomes.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have. Thank you for the wonderful questions. Thank you most of all to the outstanding cross-disciplinary panel, Avi, Caitlin, Jenny, Lisa, and Rebecca.